Being here today, I cannot tell you how good it is to see this big crowd of people from all over Vermont. And you notice when I said it that I didn't really say young people, because I'm glad that you guys are here as students, but I'm really gladder that you're just here as Vermonters and as people and as activists. I started 10 years ago, we started this thing called 350.org, which has grown into the biggest climate change movement around the world. And I started it with 7 young people, college students. But I always told them not to think of themselves as students, just to think of themselves as people who had as much right to be part of this fight as anybody else. And that's what you all are. And what I want you to know today is there are people all over the world who are engaged in this same fight with you. I work 350, and we've organized rallies and demonstrations like this one in every country in the world except North Korea, okay? And there are in Africa today, there are people doing just this same kind of thing. And on the low-lying islands of the Pacific, people doing just this same thing. And in Europe and in Asia and every place else. Partly because everybody's scared, and everybody should be scared. We have screwed up the world in a big way, and the price is coming due. I was above the Arctic Circle a couple of weeks ago, up in the very, very top of Norway. The temperature at the North Pole that day was 50 degrees above normal. Up there, way above the Arctic Circle, where it always snows in winter, it was pouring rain, and people were scared and upset. A year ago this week, I was in the South Pacific, and while I was there, this big wave of warm water came across the Pacific, and it killed the coral reefs across much of that part of the world. People there who depend on those for their food, they were scared. So it's okay to be scared, but it's also okay to be super optimistic about what we can do. Because people all of a sudden have figured out the possibilities, okay? The engineers have done their job. In the last 10 years, since you guys were in grade school, we've dropped the cost of a solar panel by 80%, okay? Across much of the world, wind power is now the cheapest way to generate power. What that means is, if we wanted to solve this problem of climate change, we could. If we went all out putting up solar panels and windmills, then by the time you guys were not even as old as I am, by the time you were just kind of middle-aged, we'd be taking care of this problem, okay? In order to do that, we have to get the fossil fuel companies out of the way. We cannot have the Exxons of the world in charge of things anymore, okay? We cannot have the oil companies telling people, fronting people like Donald Trump, okay? Because they represent everything that is old-fashioned and dangerous at this point. We need people actually leading, not just talking about climate change. We need people back there in the State House making sure that the solar panels get put up and the windmills get built and that a price gets put on carbon. When you talk to those legislators, okay, what you need to say